What if the single greatest obstacle to world peace isn't a foreign policy, a political party, or some new superweapon, but something hidden deep inside the minds of the people in charge? What if the most powerful tool for diplomacy wasn't a treaty, but a tea, brewed for centuries in the Amazon rainforest? This isn't just a fantasy. It's a serious thought experiment. What if we made every world leader meet their own shadow before they were ever allowed to touch power? This is a journey into a world where losing your ego is a requirement for public office. It's an exploration of the one thing that might just end war, heal our planet, and change our civilization forever. The problem: the ego on the world stage.
Just look at the world. Turn on the news. The story is painfully familiar, isn't it? We see nations stuck in the same old cycles of conflict. We see leaders giving speeches that just draw thicker lines between us and them. We see a global chessboard where human lives are treated like pawns in a game for resources, land, and influence. We see environmental policies that trade our future for a little short-term cash and a political world that runs on division and fear. What's the common thread in all this suffering? It's the human ego, blown up to a global scale. The ego is that voice in our head that creates our sense of a separate self. It's the voice that whispers about personal legacy, national pride, and the idea that for me to win, you have to lose. In a normal person, the ego helps us get through the day. But on the world stage, when it's unchecked and inflated by the pressures of leadership, it becomes a total disaster. It's the ego that convinces a leader that their nation is special, that their way of thinking is the only way, and that their opponents aren't just wrong, but somehow less than human. It's the ego that fuels the arms race, that justifies strip mining the planet, and that stops us from seeing the simple, undeniable truth that we are all in this together. Leaders get trapped playing the part of being strong, their real selves buried under layers of policy, polls, and protocol. And that performance, driven by the ego's fear and insecurity, is what keeps us locked in a state of constant crisis. The provocative solution. A mandate for consciousness.
So, what's the fix? What if we could install a circuit breaker? A mandatory reset button for the political ego? This is where ayahuasca comes in. For centuries, indigenous peoples of the Amazon have seen this plant medicine not as a party drug, but as a sacred key to healing and deep spiritual understanding. It's a doorway to the deepest, most hidden parts of your own mind. The experience often leads to something psychologists and mystics call ego death. Now, ego death sounds terrifying, but it doesn't mean your personality gets wiped out. Think of it more like rebooting a computer. For a little while, that rigid defensive wall that creates the feeling of me versus the world just dissolves. The constant chatter in your head goes quiet. And what rushes in to fill that space is a powerful, overwhelming feeling of connection to other people, to nature, to everything. A huge part of this process is facing what the psychologist Carl Jung called the shadow self. This is where we hide all of our repressed fears, our secret biases, our old traumas, and our worst impulses. Ayahuasca drags this shadow out into the open, not to punish you, but so you can see it and deal with it. It forces a radical and often brutal honesty. There are no press secretaries or spin doctors in the depths of your own consciousness. You have to face the totality of who you are. The proposal is this: what if that reckoning was a non-negotiable part of becoming a world leader?
The hypothetical journey. A new kind of leader. So let's play this out. Picture a newly elected leader. They're brilliant, ambitious, a master of strategy. They see the world as a complicated map of national interests, alliances, and threats. Their entire career has been about projecting strength and certainty. By every normal measure, they're the perfect person for the job. But before taking the oath of office, they're taken to a quiet, medically supervised retreat. Guided by trained facilitators and indigenous elders, they drink the bitter tea. What happens next is a total reset. The leader's carefully built identity starts to crack. Visions might come.
They might not just see statistics about a famine in a distant country. They might feel the gnawing hunger in a child's stomach. They might not just see an adversary as a political problem. They might see the face of that leader's own child and recognize the same love and fear they feel for their own. And this isn't just a guess. In real-world therapeutic settings and studies, psychedelics have been shown to produce profound increases in empathy. When people have these experiences, they often report a newfound ability to see the humanity in their enemy. Our hypothetical leader is now living this. They're forced to face their own mortality, their personal flaws, the real-world cost of their ambition. They see the earth not as a resource to be managed, but as a living thing they are a part of. The illusion that they are separate from the world shatters. And then, they come back. They return to the world, but they are not the same. The hunger for a personal legacy has been replaced by a sense of sacred responsibility. Power is no longer a prize to be won, but a humbling trust to be protected for the good of everyone. Their voice might be a little softer, but their eyes hold a much deeper wisdom. How would this change policy? Climate summits would no longer be about fighting over the bare minimum, but about acting from a place of real connection with the planet. Diplomatic meetings could shift from battles into actual problem-solving sessions. A leader who has truly felt the shared humanity of all people would find it almost impossible to sign off on policies that dehumanize refugees or approve the bombing of civilian neighborhoods. Their leadership would be rooted in consciousness, not conquest. The counter-argument and challenges, a reality check. Of course, this isn't a simple utopia. It would be naive to think a single spiritual experience could magically fix everything. There are huge ethical and practical problems to think about. For starters, is it even ethical to mandate such a powerful psychological journey? Not everyone has a good experience, and for people with certain mental health conditions, the risk could be serious, leading to things like lasting anxiety or psychosis. You can't ignore the potential for it to be misused. And maybe the biggest hurdle is that a changed leader still has to work inside an unchanged system. As the writer Charles Eisenstein has pointed out, our institutions of power, the military-industrial complex, the global financial system, the massive bureaucracies, have their own immune systems. A leader who suddenly starts pushing for radical demilitarization or forgiving all international debt would probably be seen as crazy or compromised. They might be quickly removed from power by the same system that put them there. There's also the risk of spiritual bypassing, where that feeling of oneness doesn't actually lead to doing the hard, messy work of changing the system. Empathy alone doesn't take down oppressive structures. The insights from the ceremony have to be combined with real political education and action. This isn't a magic pill, it's a catalyst. The hard work would still need to be done in the bright light of day. If this thought experiment is as fascinating to you as it is to me, consider subscribing to explore more ideas that challenge how we see the world. We believe asking these what-if questions is the first step toward building a better future. The grand vision and conclusion. So where does this leave us? The idea of mandatory ayahuasca ceremonies for politicians might seem like a wild, even ridiculous proposal. But the principle behind it is dead serious. It's a call for a new kind of leadership, one defined by humility, compassion, and a deep gut-level feeling of our interconnectedness. It's a call for leaders who have done the inner work needed to lead other people. A leader who has faced their own shadow is less likely to project it onto another country. A leader who has felt their own ego dissolve is less likely to be driven by its endless demands. Maybe the experience itself isn't the point. Maybe the point is the willingness to go through with it, the willingness to be vulnerable, to face your own flaws, and to admit that you don't have all the answers. That alone would be a revolutionary shift in global politics. This isn't a policy proposal. It's an invitation to imagine. Could a world led by people who have faced their own mortality and felt a profound sense of shared humanity finally bring us lasting peace? Or would it just create a new set of problems we can't even predict? What do you think that world would look like? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.